Arc Raiders has been out for a little more than a week now, and there are a few pain points, especially with stash base and even upgrades. So I'm going to break down all the essential items that you will need over time. That way you know what you can be clearing out of your stash space even further, and to help you with the essential upgrades, what I think will help you a ton through your playthroughs, as well as a whole bunch more. What's up, World Utopia here, back here with another video. Today we're checking out all things Arc Raiders. So first off here, going over the obvious ones, we're going to head to our workshop station. As you can see here, I basically have everything tier 3 except one, which is the medical station. That's going to be my first recommendation there, is just avoiding the medical station. Figured I would just kind of get that one out of the way, that way we can get under the rest. But the medical station right now doesn't have any items, and as far as I could tell, not even any blueprints you can get for this. That will be T3. Everything you can make here at T2. So you don't need to have a T3 medical lab. These rusted shut medical kits are very hard, and the antiseptic you can craft in base, but not worrying about that too much right now. The really hard one is the surveyor vaults, which you do get from a surveyor, and they typically only have one. These things run away from you. You have to usually stun them in order to get them around, but then they typically run if you don't hit them with a hull cracker. Typically it requires 3 of those, so you have to bring one of those into raid and etc. Just takes a lot. So for right now I'm kind of skipping out, essentially because there is nothing here. So my first recommendation for essential upgrades is just to really avoid getting medical lab to tier 3. Just get it to tier 2. That's really all you need. Now, since essentially you only need it to T2, what you're going to need for T2 is a cracked biosensor, as well as durable cloth, and even tick pods. So, of course, tick pods you can just get from the ticks in general, the little spider crawlies. You can get those very, very easily. They usually are in buildings. I have seen them occasionally outside, but these things are usually always inside buildings, and a very easy takedown, as they typically take 1 bullet from pretty much every single weapon. And for durable cloth, you do actually have to craft this in base. That's going to require fabric, so we'll go on to Refinery, which I think is a absolute requirement here, which you'll need to at least a T2, if not realistically a T3. But we do need durable cloth in Refinery in order to get Medical Lab T2. Medical Lab's very good. You got some surgery charges here, and even your herbal bandages, which you really want later on, especially in PvP scenarios. And you can also craft your Surge Shield rechargers. And then, as I mentioned, you really do want to get Refinery to T3. There's several reasons for that. T2 has some great stuff here. We have the crude explosives for your grenades, your lure grenades, but the durable cloth will also help you with both the herbal bandages as well as sterilized bandages, and even electrical components, which I pointed out in my last video. When you do craft these actually do take away stash space. You really do want to get this down as low as you can, as 280 is the max, and so you kind of want to be consistently crafting stuff here. Another really good thing, as you see from the T3 Refinery, is eventually you can get blueprints for the medium gun parts, heavy gun parts, and light gun parts. So you can actually craft these from simple gun parts, which is absolutely insane here. We could do explosive compounds, antiseptic, advanced components, which are great for weapons. I'll get into weapon section here in a second. We also have power rods, which you can get, so you can even get the power rod blueprint, which will make heavy shields and even your snap hooks, as well as the magnetic accelerator for Tempest, Equalizer, Jupiter, and even the Hull Cracker. There are a lot of things here that are very, very helpful for the level 3 refinery. This is one of the things I would focus on right away. So again, you might be asking, what do we need for level 3 refinery? First off, with level 2, a lot of people have been working on this one. You do need 3 toasters, which can actually be easily found over in the apartment section here. So a lot of times I'll spawn, depending on what side I spawn here, I'll kind of go through these. I was actually able to get around 5, I believe, or 6 toasters just by visiting a few of these buildings. So very easy here in the residential area. Might be asking, I don't see any residential areas on the map. There are some that have this kind of box around it in, I believe, Buried City, but I would honestly just do it on Damn Battlegrounds. It's a very easy map to do it on. You might catch players here every now and then, but you can store 3 toasters in your pocket, so you can get that fairly easy. The next thing you need here is the arc motion cores. Now, these things can be found in the arc pods or the probing pods that do land. They can also be found in different breaches and even different arcs, some of the higher tier ones. Of course, the Queen has it. A few other mobs have it. You don't have to fight the Queen for this. A lot of mobs have arc cores. As you see, I have a ton of them. I probably have too much in my stash at this point, but these do make the magnetic accelerators. They also do break down into some arc alloy, which is really nice, but I see a lot of people not using these or not grabbing these, but I would, because eventually you will need magnetic accelerators, and as you see, you do need them for your refinery. So I would grab these. Again, I probably have a little bit too many. Next up is the fireball burner. Now this one I actually don't have an inventory to show you, but of course it's fairly simple. It is from a fire burner or a fireball. It's the ball that rolls around and kind of shoots flames at you. Once you take that down, that will have a fireball burner, and you do need 8 of those, where again you do need 5 of the arc motion cores, as I pointed out earlier, and you do need 8 fireball burners. So a fairly simple and reasonable upgrade for T2, nothing too crazy. T3 is where we get a little bit harder here. In fact, we get a lot harder, but I really would recommend doing this. This is one of the ones I've seen people not really get T3, but again, there's so many good things in here for T3 that you can craft. Advanced mechanical components, advanced electrical components, the arc circuitry. There's just too many things here that you should really be kind of getting, especially these heavy gun parts. This is what's going to tie directly into your weapons. You'll see in a bit here. And that's the reason why I do recommend upgrading this first before your weapon section. But the first one here is motors. So you're going to need 5 motors in total. A lot of people struggle to find motors. Well, again, I do recommend damn Battlegrounds. A lot of stuff is really easy to find on Battlegrounds, but there are a few other places you can go to. I'll kind of show you. Realistically, for damn Battlegrounds, what I have done is really search the cars. So a lot of the cars here on the West Broken Bridge here section have a ton of the hoods up. There's also sections over here that like where the kind of highway leads over to, even by water towers, will also have some. This road section, so anywhere you see roads, there's going to be typical cars, or typically cars. There's also a kind of like a graveyard here of cars in this section by the Broken Bridge. So there's a ton of cars here. So if you spawn over here, this is a spawn point. A ton of cars that you can claim here in Breach, where you can get into and take those. And yeah, so essentially motors, you're really going to want to be focusing on that. You also can find them, I believe, in water treatment. So water treatment, but honestly, I would recommend doing cars instead. Could take you up to about an hour, but once you search all cars, you should have 5 motors. Next up here is arc circuitry. Now, this is going to be in those probes as well as couriers. They can also be in from kind of the harder enemies. Like I said, leapers, the Rocketeer. Of course, if you're fighting the Queen, you can get it from the Queen. But yeah, anything that's kind of the bigger ones like Bastions, etc., will have the arc circuitry. The last thing you need here is a Bombardier cell. Now, of course, you do have to fight a Bombardier. I've noticed a lot of players actually conflate this mob. It is not a Bastion. The Bastion is a dark steel color or black color, where the Bombardier is a white color robot. They're basically the same thing, but not really, right? They kind of look the exact same, but they do things very differently. If there's a Bombardier, you'll know it by having 2 drones up in the top section. These things will kind of fly around and target you, and then it will send out launchers. The Bastion only has a machine gun. So I've noticed a lot of players actually conflate that. They think that these are both the same thing. Well, I remember talking to one player like, oh, I don't want to fight it because it has rocket launchers and all that stuff. Like, no, the Bastion only has the machine gun, whereas the Bombardier has the kind of launchers there. So it is one of the hardest ones to fight. I will say that you also do have to risk being third-partied, but these are really good to have, and you do need 6 of those. Typically, a Bombardier can drop between, I believe, 4 and 8 in total, maybe. It can depend on how many you get, and if you're fighting with a team of 3, it is fairly nice. I would always recommend for these to do Bombardiers. I actually farmed both the Bombardiers and Bastions mostly solo, and the way that I was able to do that was very, very cheap. So what I ended up doing here was I went in here and made light impact grenades. They don't cost basically anything. Bring yourself about 10 to 15. If you're solo, I'd bring about 15 of these, and then maybe snag another nade or 2 from your storage space. So maybe like another heavy grenade or even a showstopper to kind of stun it. Honestly, once you kind of throw it on the nades, and then you're hitting it with either a Pharaoh, which is what I actually fought it with, was a Pharaoh. Believed occasionally I used a Renegade, but if you use a Pharaoh plus about 10 to 15 light impact grenades, as you see, it's very cheap to make those. They really don't cost much at all. In fact, you see here about 45 to 30 parts. Once you do that, you can take those down very, really fast. That'll make you have a T3 refinery, which is one I definitely recommend doing. Next up here, because this goes in tandem with your refinery, I would actually make the Gunsmith if you have blueprints. If you don't have blueprints, then I would do the gear bench. But just for sake here, we're going to focus on the gear bench because this will be the easiest one for most people. Again, we make the advanced components here, or the electrical components. This will go directly in tandem with that even arc circuitry, which we can make in the refinery. We can also make the electrical components. We can't make magnets, unfortunately. But you see a lot of stuff here can actually be made in the refinery, and that's why I recommend focusing on that one first, then doing your gear or gun bench, depending on what blueprints you have. Which, again, you might be asking, what do we need for the gear bench? Well, for the gear bench, you will first off need power cables. Now, this is one of the harder ones that people have kind of struggled with to get. And again, I would still mostly recommend Damn Battlegrounds here. I know I keep recommending this map, but there's just so much here that you can get very, very easily and early on, and people are a bit more friendly on Damn Battlegrounds that I found. Now, Water Treatment is a very heavy PvP zone for what it is, even solos and trios. Spaceport, ton of these, like Rocket Assembly. There's also some towers over here that can have it. So if you were struggling with those, that's where I would recommend getting your power cable. And again, the reason why I wanted you to focus on Refinery first is because it requires electrical components. You have to make 5 of them. Well, you can make them super easy. You see right here, we can get rubber parts, plastic parts. It does not cost a lot, so you will actually need 5 electrical components. And again, I want to go back. You need 3 power cables, 5 electrical components. Super easy to make in your refinery, at least if you have a T2. So then again, you can make those very, very fast. And then last but not least, you will need Hornet drivers. Of course, you find them in Hornets. Those are very easy to get. You need 5 of those for level 2. Next up here for level 3 of the gear bench, to level this up to max level, this one is going to be where it gets a bit tough again. So first off here, we're going to need 3 industrial batteries. As I recommended before, power generation complex, or go to Spaceport and head into this area, container storage or vehicle maintenance. Both will have a decent chunk of those for the industrial batteries, as those, of course, are going to be in industrial, and they typically aren't in cars, so that was where I would go. It's just in here, and kind of look on this side, kind of red crates. Those usually have those. Next up here, you're going to need 5 advanced electrical components, and again, guess what? We can make those from our refinery. So you see right here, we need wires, which are fairly easy to get. We're going to need some wires here to get those. So you will need to be crafting regular electrical components if you don't have any. Then you can go into here and craft your advanced electrical components. You see, they're actually fairly easy to get, the electrical components. I have a bunch of them. The cool thing about this one, though, Celeste does actually sell wires here. You can buy 10 every 24 hours, I believe, and it does sit on the same timer, so it's not on your timer. She has her own timer for when she resets. Buy up to 10 here using only 40 seeds. And then last up here, you do need a Bastion cell. So we will need some Bastion cells. In fact, you need 6 of those. Bastions are also a lot easier than the Bombardier to take out. So if you're taking out Bombardiers, you can certainly take out the Bastions, as they just have the machine gun. As I recommended before, bring in those light grenades, about 10 to 15, and then also maybe a few heavy grenades, and you should only need a few ammo, and it should be taken down in around under a minute or so. Another recommendation here that I would level up is your Gunsmith. And of course, you see I have a ton of stuff that I can craft here. At this point, I can even craft a Hull Cracker. I have Patinas. I have the Jupiter Blueprint, the Equalizer. All this stuff is going to be T3, all this like blue stuff and higher. So you really, really want T3, and as well as helping with your weapon upgrades, trying to go through some of these weapons and upgrade them. So you really do want T3 Gunsmith, especially if you have a lot of blueprints like I do here. Basically almost have every single blueprint in the game at this point, aside from maybe Tempest and a few others. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff in here that you can craft with T3. For T2 Gunsmith, we do need rusted tools. They are mechanical and industrial, so I would actually go to, again, Power Complex had them decently, but also Water Treatment's gonna potentially have them because it's mechanical and industrial, so it actually has a double rate of spawning there. That's probably why there's a lot of PvP here too. If you are having trouble on Dam, then again, of course, I would go to Spaceport. Also can have them between here. You might really have it because it has a double proc chance of spawning, and then as well in vehicle maintenance. So right there, we both have these mechanical and industrial. So it's actually really good to farm right here in this section here on Spaceport for rusted tools. This is just proving my point why we need Refinery so bad. We need 5 mechanical components. Where can you make mechanical components? You can make them in your refinery. So at least having T2 here really does help. You also do need 8 Wasp drivers. Of course, those are in Wasp, but they're fairly easy to take down and should be a fairly easy upgrade to get. For level 3, this is a very, very major pain point for players, and that is to get rusted gears. You need 3 rusted gears in total. Again, I do not have these in my stash space here, and the reason why is because they're really hard to get. I know I keep going back to this place, but it is really good for this stuff, and you could be farming everything all in one. Again, keep the rusted gears. That's probably what you should prioritize anyways. Put those in your safe pocket. These are very hard to get. Notice a lot of players struggling with these. Honestly, all I can recommend is power generation. I've seen some players try to go to and farm cars. I've never seen them in a car farming in motors for an hour. It can be on the breach ones. Anything that's like breached, I typically find rusted gears in. So I would breach everything you can. All the breach stuff. Also like the ones that look like radio stations or stereos, where they kind of have like the wide square at the bottom and then the thin layer on the top. I would go for those to breach and just head into there and kind of take those on. Those typically do have rusted gears. And then cool thing here, you don't need to farm anything. because we can make it in our refinery, and we need advanced mechanical components. So we're going to need 5 of those. We can craft those here. We can easily make 5 if we need to. We do need regular mechanical components, so if we need to, we have to make those quickly with metal parts. Now, the rest of these I wouldn't recommend upgrading that much. Maybe explosives, they can get decent with the showstoppers. I think showstoppers actually going to be really utilized later on, and blaze grenades, but you have to get the blueprint for this. I was very lucky to get this blueprint. In fact, in my like 80 hours plus played, even more than that, I think I'm almost at 100 hours played, I finally just got a blaze grenade blueprint the other day. So unless you're lucky enough to get this, I wouldn't recommend upgrading your explosive station, as the light impact grenades are really good in PvP, and they're too cheap to make right now, or at least should be utilized a ton. So for right now, I wouldn't recommend upgrading your explosive stations, as there isn't a ton to make here just yet. Next up here is utility station. Unless you want to make the photo electric cloaks, I wouldn't recommend this one either, or the Raider hatch keys, but you can get it to T2 at least. T3 isn't really needed. I've never used this photoelectric cloak. It seems fairly decent, but you have to hold it out above your head, and you can't actually do anything with your weapons or anything. So go over that one quickly though. You need damage heat sinks, 2 of those, electrical components 5, and then snitch scanners. For the level 3 on the utility station, you need 3 fried motherboards, 5 advanced electrical components, and then 4 leaper pulse units, which again, you know where to get those. For the explosive workbench, you need synthesized fuel, 3 of those, 5 crude explosives, which you can make in refinery, which are nice, and then 5 pop triggers. For level 3, this one's the hard one, laboratory reagents and explosive compound. You need 3 of the laboratory reagents, which are hard to find for explosives. They're not the easiest, and you can get at level 3. Later on, I might do a video in showcasing stuff we need for the expedition project. As of right now, I'm in a very difficult stage, level 5. We'll eventually do a video on that, hopefully, and break that down for you. I hope I did help you kind of go over essentially what you need to keep and how to upgrade and progress your workstations, and where you could find different items, so hopefully you can progress further. Overall, that's what I'll cover for today's video. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe, and until the next one. Deuces.